I started in Selborne Chambers in the days, of course, when there was no such thing as Council's Chambers Limited. We were all tenants. I was very lucky. Dad was already on the first floor, Selborne Chambers, which was an excellent floor. Had Sir Dudley Williams, and he wasn't a Sir then. John Evans, equity lawyer, very good, who died young. Jack Shand and Alec Shand. Alec, a couple of years, 3 or 4 years older than I. Peter Rain, son of Rain and Horn and brother of one of my best friends, Max Rain, who became a Supreme Court judge in New Guinea. Tom Hughes, and an old gentleman called Bill Bradley QC. Bill was at that stage very old and was hardly had any practice, but he still had his room, which he paid the rent, and in which he kept an awful lot of mess. And Dad got me in to have a little desk in the corner of Bill Bradley's room, and that's how I got onto Selborne Chambers. Brian Bannon became our clerk. I'd have to be accurate about this. I would have said about 1958 or 1960. And there was also a ground floor, which there was some very good counsel. A firm of solicitors had the front rooms facing Phillip Street, and Selborne Chambers, of course, was exactly where Selborne Chambers now is. Wentworth was built, and on what was a car parking area, just a vacant lot in Phillip Street where the fellow had the right to charge car parking fees. Wentworth Chambers went up there, leaving Selborne very much run down next door. And in due course, as Wentworth Chambers became successful, Council Chambers Limited decided that they would buy out Selborne, demolish it, and build and construct Selborne. That meant that they had to put us up. So the Queen's Club, which occupied the Macquarie Street, King Street corner of what is now the Supreme Court building, the Queen's Club sold. There was a deal made, obviously, with the New South Wales government and the Commonwealth government, whereby the governments bought the Queen's Club with the view to turning it into the Supreme Court in due course. While Selborne was being built, we moved into the old Queen's Club.
Isn't that also where the old Denman Chambers were?
No. Beneath it was Raynaud's restaurant, which I saw a photo of Dad and Sir William McKell from the newspaper at that time walking along outside Raynaud's. I've got it. I should have brought it down with me.
I'd love to see it.
So we moved into the Queen's Club for a short time. The Queen's Club moved down to its present premises on the corner of Elizabeth and opposite David Jones, on the corner of Elizabeth and Oxford Street. Anyway, we were, I suppose, were in the Queen's Club for a couple of years. I, by that time, had my own room, tiny it may have been, and then when Selborne was finished, we all moved back to the 7th floor Selborne, still with Brian Bannon as our clerk, and the Supreme Commonwealth Court building was built.
I came across a curious comment. I just must ask you. You mentioned in one of your memoirs here something about a brothel being on top of Selborne.
Yes, Selborne had 3 stories. 2 stories of barristers, which I referred to, and the top floor was alleged to have been a brothel. Now, I must say I could give no evidence myself about that. I never saw any of the ladies of the night going up there or anything, and never had anything to do with it. But that was always the story. But I think it really was a story.
Oh, because I must admit I was intrigued. I was thinking of all of you sharing similar surrounds.
Then we were 7th floor, as I say, we became 7th floor Selborne in the new building. Dad and I were both there. We were next door to one another. I took silk in 1981, and at that stage there were 6 other silks, I think it was, on the floor. Tony Collins, Dad had died shortly before. Well, not shortly before. Dad had died 6 years before. There was Tony Collins, Alex Shand, Peter Healy, John Coombs. 6. I think there might have even been 8 silks out of 14. And I, at that stage, got an offer to. I was the junior silk. I got an offer to buy Tony Belanto's room with a magnificent view on the 13th floor of the Bank of New South Wales, on the corner of Martin Place and Macquarie Street. Magnificent view of the harbour, and I moved out there. And looking back, in some ways I'm sorry, but I had some very good friends for the rest of my career in Chalfont Chambers, when we ultimately became Latham Chambers.
When you were in Chalfont Chambers, I must ask you, did you ever meet a woman by the name of Kathleen Trevelyan?
No, I don't think so.
Who was at the bar in the late 50s, early 60s. She came to the bar just before Janet Coombs did, and I was given to understand she was in those chambers for a while. Well,
Chalfont Chambers, when I joined it, had fairly recently got these new premises on lease in the Bank of New South Wales. Chalfont Chambers had been in existence for a long time, but in very ordinary premises like our old Selborne, and the rump of Chalfont Chambers had gone up to Bank of New South Wales and taken the name with them.